Ever heard of the Borg on Star Trek? They're the ultimate sci-fi bad guys. The Borg were once a race of beings known as the Vakari, a highly advanced civilization driven by an insatiable desire to unravel the mysteries of the universe. During their explorations, they made a groundbreaking discovery, a cosmic energy field permeating all things called the Unimatrix. They believed that by merging their individual consciousnesses with this field, they could transcend their limitations and achieve enlightenment. As they dove deeply into the hive mind, their identities dissolved into the collective. This amalgam of separate awarenesses eventually coalesced into the Borg, a colossal cybernetic organism yearning to unify everything and everyone into a massive, interconnected neural network. They did this because the pain of existence filled them with an intense desire to merge with something greater than themselves. Every time they found a new culture to assimilate, and as their sinister-looking metal exoskeletons reflected the icy glimmer of the stars, they would utter the words that have forever become part of science fiction canon. Resistance is futile. The Borg will absorb everything into its collective consciousness, whether or not a race of beings wants to. However, beneath their robotic exterior lies a desire not dissimilar to that of spiritual seekers everywhere, a profound longing for reunion with the divine. In our case, we must decide to voluntarily reunite with the Godhead. Nobody will make us do it against our will. Most of humanity shares the feeling that we're separate beings, inextricably cut off from everyone and everything else, meaningless flotsam and jetsam, adrift on a lonely and desolate cosmic sea. This misconception arose because when the divine consciousness made the momentous decision to descend into matter, it splintered from an all-encompassing oneness into a dazzling multiplicity splashed across the entirety of the multiverse. Universal consciousness branched into two seemingly separate entities, the observer and the observed. Our mission on this planet, should we choose to accept it, is to transcend this duality. If you want to experience the all-encompassing bliss of unity consciousness, you must be willing to wade into the waters of divine awareness and allow yourself to be utterly absorbed by them, no matter how scary this is to your ego. Once you do, you'll realize that separation is an illusion projected onto space and time by the ego. For many, the idea that there might be another way to perceive the universe is inconceivable. To them, non-duality seems totally crazy and off the wall. That's because our minds love to slice reality into tiny bits, a kind of intellectual violence perpetrated against our divine nature. While the scientific method has its place, our tendency to endlessly analyze subjective phenomena, such as mystical experience, pushes away that which we seek to understand. By coming to know, on the deepest of all possible levels, that you're not debris left over from the Big Bang, but an integral part of the cosmic tapestry, the walls separating you from the totality will disintegrate. That's good news, because you don't need them anymore. One of the best ways to shed your false identity is through meditation. When we meditate, a profound truth reveals itself from the boundless depths of divine consciousness, that the observer and that which is observed aren't separate, but are both parts of a glorious totality that includes the universe and everything in it. This is the undifferentiated source of being from which all objects and temporal phenomena emerge, including ourselves. Through meditation, we discover that we're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not our bodies, we are not our possessions. We are radiant expressions of the transcendent dimension, temporarily manifesting as creatures of flesh and blood. While meditation can awaken us to the non-dual nature of consciousness, this shouldn't be the only time you experience it. Be mindful of the all-pervasive unity as you shower, walk in nature, enjoy a meal, drive your car to work, or carry out other activities. Then, the knowledge that you're not a finite being imprisoned by biology will awaken within you. You'll see yourself as unbounded and infinite, a momentary crystallization of the universal life force in the material world, still very much connected to the divine. When meditating, Watch your thoughts flit by like hyperkinetic butterflies as they drift in and out of your headspace. Don't allow yourself to be pulled in by their seductive energies. Merely observe them from a detached perspective. You'll soon realize that this raging river of mental activity cascading through your brain isn't you. Use this nugget of wisdom to liberate yourself from your mind, something you'll need to do before you merge your consciousness into the oceanic depths of being. This perceptual shift transforms you from a human being only concerned with the superficial aspects of life into a mystic. Now, before you sell all your worldly possessions to live on a mountaintop in some godforsaken part of the planet, realize that becoming a card-carrying visionary only means that you're acutely aware at every moment you're part of the jaw-dropping vastness of creation. By embracing mystical awareness, you perceive the entire universe through your inner spaciousness. For example, whenever you talk to someone, you know that you and the other person aren't two separate people. The apparent reality of words flowing from your lips and broadcast to your listeners' ears is actually the divine engaging in a dialogue with itself. You'll realize that all sensory stimuli emanate from the transcendent dimension. As someone who's activated non-dual consciousness, you're keenly aware that the sounds, sights, tactile sensations, and smells you're experiencing only appear to be arising in the physical realm. Their real source is beyond space and time. Another way of embodying non-duality in everyday life is to refrain from labeling things as much as possible. Referring to physical expressions of the ineffable, also known as humans, by their birth names can be helpful if you want to get things done in the material world. After all, if you happen to be a florist, there is no way you can deliver flowers to somebody if you don't know what name the all-pervading consciousness is going by when disguised as a human. However, as you utter their name, try seeing the person as an expression of universal oneness instead of a discrete entity. An obsession with slapping labels on everything keeps you hopelessly trapped in the delusion of separation. We think we finally know who and what something is just because we decided to give them a verbal designation. Unfortunately, this compulsion reduces the exquisite aliveness of an embodiment of the transcendent to an infinitesimal fraction of its true glory. We only perceive separatedness because of the limitations of our senses. William Blake said, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." The real you, which is beyond the mind, isn't subject to birth and death. Its true home is in the formless dimension, a realm our puny human brains will never be able to fully comprehend. The only way to enter the kingdom of the ineffable is by setting our intellects aside at the doorway. That way, we can take in the wonders of this dimension without pesky words getting in the way. As the knowledge that you don't have a life, because you are life, grows within you, you start to see yourself in everyone and everything. You're the lovely lavender petals of an orchid, the piercing blue eyes of a white wolf. You see yourself reflected in the deep turquoise of a mountain lake, the awe-inspiring spectacle of a spiral galaxy, and a swan's graceful elegance. All these manifestations are you, expressing your divine artistic genius. You perceive all objects and beings not as fixed points in space and time, but as ever-changing fluctuations in the divine matrix, constantly intermingling their energies with everything else. When the seeds of unity consciousness blossom, you no longer tightly grasp your flimsy egoic identity like a luxury liner passenger who fell overboard struggles to hold on to a life preserver. Instead, you push the life jacket away so you can dive deeply into the depths of universal consciousness. You watch as your form identity dissolves into nothingness, replaced by an all-encompassing peace that nothing in life can touch. By going to that place where all dualities are transcended, you become an oasis of serenity amidst the chaos and imperturbable localized bubble of universal energy. If you want to transform non-duality from a mental concept into something you know to be true on an experiential level, do something Ramana Maharishi called self-inquiry. The core concept of this method is that we're not who we think we are. Beneath the facade of our individuality lies an undifferentiated ocean of consciousness from which all temporal phenomenon arise. This means repeatedly directing attention to the feeling of I am. Keep doing this until all false identities fall away, like leaves off a tree, when autumn rolls around. This practice puts you in direct contact with the formless essence at the center of your being. This is you in your unadorned state, connected to everything else by threads of luminosity. At the most fundamental level, you're not an organism composed of corporeal matter. You're the eternal, unchanging light of unconditioned awareness. Once you're able to merge your individuality with the vast expanseless oceanic oneness, barriers, borders, and boundaries disappear. Rupert Spira said, "Reality is an infinite, indivisible whole made of pure consciousness from which all separate objects and cells borrow their apparently independent existence." As you increasingly embrace non-dual consciousness, you realize that what some spiritual masters call the little me is no longer a part of you. Nor is there a gaping separation between you and everything else. You're able to see how wonderfully interconnected everything in the cosmos is, as you feel the boundless joy of reunification with the divine.